Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you all my favorite Easter crochet patterns. All of these patterns that I'll be sharing I have made and tried out myself, so you'll know for sure that these are patterns that are worthwhile. None of that AI stuff. These are legit, these are real. These are going to be patterns that you'll be making over and over because they're just too cute for this time of year. So stick around and see all these adorable patterns. I will have down in the description affiliated links. Affiliated means that I will make a small commission. If you click on that link and you happen to purchase that item, I'll make a very small commission. Do not feel like you have to purchase through the links if you're not in the situation to do so. It's just a way to help me and support me grow on this channel and to be able to provide the supplies and the things that I need to be able to make these videos for you guys. So be sure to check that list. I'll have all sorts of yarn that you can use and things that I'll be talking about in this video, as well as safety eyes and hooks and all sorts of good stuff. So do not hesitate to look at that list. It'll have a bunch of great things listed on there. A lot of these items I will have in my shop. So if you are not a crocheter or you fell in love with something that I'm showing in this video, go check out my shop, link down below. And I will show throughout the video and have like a little available in shop sticker or something in this video so you know it's a shop item. But some of these items may have already been sold because it is Easter time and my items do go quick because they are one of a kind for a lot of these things. So do keep that in mind that by the time you may be seeing this video, they may not be available anymore. So just keep that in mind, but be sure to check out my shop because it does have a lot of other options, and I'm always trying to list multiple items that are very similar or maybe a different color. I'm always trying to list items that are very similar constantly because I like making a lot of very similar things. So don't hesitate to look at that and check it out. First pattern here, I like to call this one Cube Rabbit. It might actually be called that, but it's definitely in a cube form depending on the yarn that you're using. Mine kind of turn more blobby and round, but that is okay. I think they're cute nonetheless. I do love that with these you can make their ears stand up like this, or I can play around and curl them and make them more floppy. It's kind of cute just with all of those different things. But this one's my favorite yarn so far from Red Heart with color choices for spring, and it is Papaya Pooling. So usually when I'm making stuff for spring, I'm going crazy and using this one just because it kind of has all those spring colors and it's kind of my favorite. But with this pattern credit goes to Crafty Bunny Bun. And I've played around with a bunch of different colors. I mean, they're adorable no matter what color you do. I've done them with those colors. I've done this purple one here. I kind of went crazy and pulled every color that I could. I got this one here. I mean, I had a lot of fun making a bunch of these. It's like the more you have, the better it gets, right? And then I've got this one with some sparkly yarn. And then I got really into this and tried to be very adventurous with some Chanel yarn. So this one is the exact same pattern, but done with Chanel. And I can show a much better angle and picture because this guy is pretty big compared to the little cube rabbit there. And I believe in her pattern she also has an option that you can crochet a carrot. So I went crazy because I'm like, well, this one's big enough, it deserves a carrot to go with them, especially for something that I have in my shop. You know, I like to really make the items that I have kind of have accessories if needed, and I felt like he needed a carrot. Happy little bunny here. And this one turned out kind of nice with the Chanel. I haven't used a lot of Chanel before, so this was a fun way to kind of practice with something on a more familiar scale of like, I've made a bunch of these rabbits before, so I had a bunch of it too, so I was just going crazy, and it was a good color for Easter. Kind of reminds me of a bat with the ears. But overall, this pattern is pretty simple when it comes to you're kind of working in the round. There'll be some increasing and decreasing. You have the ears separate that you sew on, and then the legs that are all separate that you sew on, and then the tail as well. So there is quite a bit of sewing, so if you're not loving that, this may not be a good pattern. but I feel like once you kind of get the hang of it, it's not too bad. It's a pretty easy assembly when it comes to everything. I mean, you're not really having to line things up too much. The ears probably are the biggest thing where you kind of want to make sure they're more straight. But I feel like with the legs, you can kind of tuck them under and you don't really have to worry about them too much because you just have to make it so that it kind of sets up. But overall, very easy pattern, and as you can see, I've made a bunch of them. So you can do them all sorts of colors. It's all going to vary on what yarn you're using and what hook size you're using. So if this is too big or you want even bigger, doing different yarn will definitely help you in that department. You could do this with a much thinner yarn. You'll just end up with a much smaller rabbit, or like I said, thicker yarn, bigger hook, bigger rabbit. But overall, one of my favorites. Very easy to make, and they just multiply before you know it. Because you'll just have so much fun making them, and that's how it was for me. And I've made several of these. Alright, next up we have are these crocheted eggs. The pattern credit for the eggs goes to Bago Day here on YouTube. She has a very easy tutorial on how to make pretty much any size egg, because it really depends on the hook size and the yarn that you use. Pretty sure hers might be slightly bigger, but she uses a much bigger hook size in general. And I typically am using H's and G's, so I think hers was an I hook for acrylic yarn. But I got this idea of, you know, making eggs, but I ended up just taking part of an egg carton. So if you buy just the long skinny 12 for 12 eggs, and I just cut it in half. I have done some where I've left the top, just cut the entire egg carton in half, so you had the lid too. It does look a little wonky because you can see where I cut it, but I think it's just a nice way, especially in my shop, to be able to have it where they can play with it for a kid's kitchen, or if someone wants to use it for a decor piece. I have thought about maybe in the future actually buying some egg cartons, or, you know, using egg cartons that are smaller. Just hasn't been something convenient because we do not buy small amounts of eggs. We always buy the larger amounts. So I just did this like so. I did sell one like that did have the cover, and it was just all white eggs that I did. But you could even take, one of my favorite things is to take Red Heart. It has like the speckled, I'm not sure exactly what the yarn is. I'll have it linked down below, but it has more of a speckled flick thing going. And so to me, it always makes me think of like speckled eggs. So that's one I would probably do to kind of get more of a speckled egg look. I found my yarn. So it's Afra and Fleck with Red Heart. And so I do that with speckled yarn to get more of a speckled egg if you want. It's one of my things that I like to do. So that's something that if you guys are looking for more of that farmhouse look, or wanting that more spring with flecks, even any yarn that has the flecks in it can be really fun too, especially for Easter and wanting the speckled eggs. That could be very cute. Next up we have are these mini baskets. I unfortunately no longer have these baskets as I had sold them and have not made any more sense. But this pattern credit goes to Jennifer at Craft Sanity. And these are extremely fun because you can put candy, you can put eggs, you can just have them as a little decor thing. You can put rabbits in it if you can crochet a small rabbit to kind of pop out of the little basket. Very cute to do something like that. I like this because I like decor that does not take up a lot of space. So I was trying to think things along the line of that for people, especially shipping things. Being able to compress it down is very convenient, because putting things in something huge and mailing it out is not very convenient, but it's also convenient for the person with their decor, so you can compress it down and it won't be this giant bulky basket like your traditional baskets. So I like that about that. And you can do any kind of colors. It's super cute if you're wanting to hand them out to kids. If you've got a bunch of kids that you're making things for, I think this is a great way to do that, and put candy in it, or little gifts, or little teeny little whatevers, you know, to add even into an Easter basket. So it's a nice quick little project if you're wanting to bust out a whole bunch of them, because it is just worked mostly in the round, and then you do got the handle, but overall I think fairly beginner friendly. Next up I have are these little rabbit treat holders. And you can put candy in them, or you can just have them sitting up. I'll show a much better picture of them displayed. These have kind of been in my storage for my shop for a while, so they're kind of compressed. But this pattern credit for these rabbits goes to Repeat Crafter Me. And if you want to, this was something I made a long time ago with the safety eyes and stuff, and at the time I didn't have a better idea of what to do with the safety eyes poking like this. You could put some felt on the inside to kind of cover it, because it doesn't look as nice with it like that. But at the time I was like, well, nobody's going to be looking at the inside. They're going to be filling it with treats and putting them in their little baskets or whatnot, or gifting them. But I think if I were to redo this today, as I would probably try to cover this with some felt, or crochet another liner, or you could put fabric to kind of cover it, just because it does not look the most clean and attractive as a product like this. You're really just working in the round and making like a little cup, and then attaching the ears and your safety eyes and all that fun stuff. So these are just fun when you're wanting to do a bunch of little things. They don't take extremely long, so like these especially don't take the longest. But I ended up making 3 different ones. I used whatever yarn I had at the time. This one is a slightly more of a cream color, so that's why it's a lot smaller. It's not the same kind of yarn as these two. But these are so nice because you can pull them out, put them in a little Easter basket for kids, or put them up as decor. But then they can press down, so you can store them easily, and they're not going to be in the way. And then they'll pop back up. You just have to kind of press them a bit, but then they'll stick right up again. If you're not familiar with reverse single crochet, that's what this is, to give this texture. So but that's not too hard. If you aren't familiar with it, it's actually very easy. Lots of tutorials on here on YouTube on how to do reverse single crochet. I always think that it's a lot harder than it really is. So it's just really working a single crochet. Instead of, if you're right-handed and you usually work this way when you're crocheting, you're actually going to be working just backwards. So like I said, watch a lot of tutorials here on YouTube. They will help you with that, but it really is just you working backwards, and the way the yarn carries, it does that effect. Not too bad for beginners, I would say, because I did this when I was a beginner. To go along with these, I did another pattern, and these are what I call, they can be ducks or they could be chicks. They kind of are versatile. You can kind of do either one, and these do also sit up if you kind of force them a little bit there. They'll sit up. These also can be treat holders, or my egg here is really small, but if you have a bigger egg, it could fill it up. You could fill them up with multiple eggs and treats, and then they sit up really nice as well. And then this pattern credit goes to Winding Row Crochet. And I actually found, I can't remember if it's Winding Row Crochet that did the other one. There's the one I did first was actually knitted, because I was a little more familiar with knitting, and I was trying to teach people how to knit, and I was trying to come up with some fun little projects on how to do this. And then now, being more of a crocheter, I did find that at least Winding Row Crochet has a crochet tutorial of the same thing. So I can't remember, I'll have to look that up and check, but I can link both. If you knit and you want to knit some, I'll have the knitted pattern, and then I'll also have the crochet one, because this is more crocheting, but if you guys wanted to. But this is nice because I believe it's just worked a specific way where it folds out and you work the rows, and then you attach just the head and everything else. I think, at least that's how the knitted one works. I can't remember for sure if that's how this one works or not. I think it's very similar. I mean, crochet and knitting, you can really become very versatile when it comes to some of the rows. Like, you can do that with a lot of patterns. And next up we have are these mini peeps. I can't remember why these ended up so much bigger. It might have something to do with maybe the hook or the yarn size at the time, because I think I was following the pattern and then I went with one that I was more comfortable with. But either way, you are getting these very fun peeps. The pattern credit goes to Heather Corrine Crochets. So I believe the pattern has you make all one panel, and then there's a whole back panel. So you make 2 of the outline of the rabbit, and then I believe you either single crochet, or I think it's single crochet all the way around, and you kind of stuff it if you want to and have your little safety eyes. But these are extremely fun for those peep lovers, or people that like rabbits, because you don't have to like peeps to make peeps. But you can do them all sorts of colors. I've always wanted to make a whole bunch in rainbow. I just have not. I usually use whatever yarn I have available because they don't take up very much yarn in this case. These take up a little bit more, but these hardly take up any. I mean, with how little these guys are. And they're super cute. I mean, this is only a little bit about the size of my hand. These are about the same too, just a little bit bigger. But definitely a fun pattern, and I make a bunch of these all the time. To keep going kind of with the peeps, I kept playing around with different sizes because I had the smaller ones, and then there's this one. It's a little bit bigger. I like to call this one my medium one just because it's medium size compared to those. And this pattern credit goes to Robin at Rose and Lily Amagurumi. And I can't really remember a whole lot more else. I mean, it's a pretty basic pattern. I think you make the ears separate, but I think the body is all worked as one, and then you attach the ears. But it was just a nice way to kind of make a more taller one. I think it also sits up fairly well, and you can't see that, but it does sit up. So it was just a nice way to kind of make something a little bit different than these little guys, because these are just nice if you want to kind of stuff them, and then this is more like if you wanted a decor piece or a stuffed animal. So I was playing around with different sizes, and then this is again that chenille yarn. So I think I was just playing around with more of the different thicknesses of yarn, because it's fun to see what and how things turn out when you're playing around with all that. And this is the last peep size we have, and I call this the large peep. And this is in blanket yarn, Bernat blanket yarn. So this pattern credit goes to, I'm totally going to butcher this, Dorumi. It'll be linked down below. And I was looking for, because I had a bunch of Bernat blanket yarn, and I was like, I wonder if I can make a peep with the blanket yarn, because I had so much. And so this one is specifically designed to be used with the blanket yarn. Very similar to the other ones, these little mini ones. Oops. With these little mini ones where you make the panel and then you single crochet. So this is just on a bigger scale. So kind of more like a pillow to me, and I think it's adorable. You can do these in all sorts of colors. There's all sorts of Bernat blanket colors. Even the baby blanket would work great because they have more spring and pastel colors, so those could be really cute. Oh, I kind of liked how it turned out, and just super happy and cute looking little rabbit. Next up I have is this rabbit headband, and the pattern credit for this goes to Grace and Yarn. So I wanted to kind of play around with something a little different that could be fun for Easter, because I think, okay, Easter, what's kind of a fun thing that people do? And kids dress up, and I thought it was a cute way when you see a little girl in a cute little dress for Easter time to also have some little rabbit ears. And then I don't have it anymore because I sold it, but I also have this unicorn headband that I made, and that pattern credit goes to Chain 8 Designs. So here's that I made to kind of go along with the same concept, just something that was more springish and something that could be cute and nice for Easter time. And even any time of year, really. If you love rabbits, if you love unicorns, it's just a cute way for kids to just wear the headbands, and it was something that was a little different. So I did crochet around this headband, and it's all in the pattern, and then you do make the little flowers and sew them on and sew the ears. Same thing with the unicorn. Make the horn and the ears and then the flowers. So really just time consuming, because you do have to do quite a long piece here where you're just doing a really long circular tube in a sense, and then the ears. But I think these turned out really cute and very fun. And then next up I have this little chick. I unfortunately was having a really rough time finding the original pattern to link down for you guys, but I found another one that looks pretty much the same, and that pattern is by 1 Cent Crochet on YouTube. So I'll have that video tutorial linked down below. Looks pretty much the same way. I think it's also to make like another duck. So this could be a chick or it could be a duck or whatever you guys want it to be. And I think hers has one that looks like this and then one that's like a mallard duck. So that kind of opens up spring options in a way, or Easter things if you like doing that kind of stuff. It's very basic, pretty much worked in the round. And you got the little bobble stitch here, but Not a whole lot more. Pretty basic for a beginner. They're just kind of fun to squish and hold. Next up I have are these carrot plushies. Again, I had a very hard time trying to find the original creator for these and be able to have that so you guys could find the pattern link down below. So I found a very similar pattern. That pattern was by Allison at Wonder Crochet. So it might be slightly longer or slightly different, but it looked more like these carrots in a way. And I used, both these were burlap blanket yarn. This one was just a normal like gold color, and then this one was like an orange, but I think it was like the baby blanket. So it looks like it did work up a little bigger. But either way, I think they look cute and they're fun. Just something to kind of bring that Easter vibe if you're liking that kind of thing. If you want little carrots, I found them to be kind of cute personally. And you could easily have it set next to a rabbit and just have it as your decor, or it's great for kids to have if they want like cute little crochet foods. So sticking with the carrot theme here, these were the first carrots I have ever made. And the pattern credit goes to Nia at Nia Creates. She has all these different sizes for different carrots sizes. So if you want to make a really small carrot or a very large carrot, I mean, she's got all of these different sizes. And so I just made a whole bunch in hopes that maybe somebody would like to have just a bunch of carrots for their kids' play kitchen, because carrots do come in all sizes. So this is a fun way that if you want to have just a cute little setup, you can do a bunch of these smaller ones as well, and like a little setup too for your decor. It's just kind of everywhere with all that. You can kind of do whatever you want with all these different carrots. It's not very limited. Kind of go with this. I got inspired. This isn't specifically the pattern. The inspiration that I saw for these carrots was by MJ's Off the Hook design. She did Rustic Carrots very similar to this and did the twine for the tops. Her pattern's actually very different. She kind of has like a spiral where you can kind of see it pop up. I wanted just simpler carrots. I didn't want all that, but if you want to do that and have just more of a texture to your carrots, her pattern is perfect. I just wanted to stick with my more simple, and I think I just used this size carrot, so one of the medium sized carrots on the smaller scale. But if you like that rustic vibe, this is a great way. I think even in her picture, she wraps it with some ribbon, and you can kind of have them as like a little bundle of carrots. It's a very cute farmhouse decor for spring if you really like that look. You could even do one maybe in teal if you have a teal color. I just went with 3 colors because this is something that I'm trying to sell, so I didn't know if people would just want to keep simple or if someone would wanted a teal or not. I don't know. What do you guys think about rustic carrots? Should there be a teal with these or not? Kind of leaving that open up to you guys. I think it's just great the way it is, but I love to hear what everybody else thinks. All right, we're not done with carrots. So we've got these carrot little treat bags. I just made 4 of them as a little set here. And this pattern credit goes to Anita at Creating Me. And her pattern, she makes it so that you can do a little drawstring here. And you can stuff this with all sorts of goodies and eggs or whatever. And then they close up and look really nice. You can tie them to have the little bow. I can't remember because this one is smaller. So I wonder if she has that option, or if that's just, yeah, these 2 are a little smaller. So she might have some options to make bigger or smaller, or you can easily tweak her pattern to do that as well. But I thought this was a cute way to kind of do carrots in a more flat way, because like I said, I was trying to think of different ways that weren't heavy and bulky because of shipping prices. And so this is a great way also to store as well, because you can easily store a bunch of these without them taking too much space compared to a 3D carrot. These also make great gifts if you're just wanting to put some candy in them, or put little gifts, put a gift card, whatever you guys do. So I got some candy here. You can easily just put some candy in, make it a nice little gift, and stuff it in something, or give somebody a little Easter basket. Very cute way to just have a nice little bag that's kind of adds a little different effect, I feel like. All right, these are Fidget Flowers. And this pattern credit goes to Sierra at Sierra's Squishies on Instagram. I'll have that link down below. And hers was originally with a thick yarn, but I think she was using a much smaller one. I was using a burlap blanket, so I think it was a little too bulky compared to the one she said to use, because I believe she said to use a bulky 6. But I know all yarn sizes are not the same, even though they may say that they are. So these did kind of end up, I think, a little bigger. But they're fun because these kind of make it where there can be more like a squishy. But then I have this one with the acrylic that could be more of like a little basket stuffer, you know, where you kind of sit this in there. And it's just so that they can flip all the little petals one way and then can go the other way. Just something to keep them busy, because kids are a bit fidgety and they like to have things to do. So you can even do it with a bigger one. It's a little more softer. So just something fun for the kids for Easter, just to fill their baskets and something fun. What do you guys think about the Fidget Flowers? What colors would you guys do if you did them? Maybe what yarn would you use? I kind of liked the acrylic just because it made them on a smaller scale, but I do love the softness of the burlap blanket. So just something fun that's a little different. All right, these next ones, this one's very big. This one is the Speckled Rabbit. This pattern credit goes to Repeat Crafter Me. She just announced this pattern a few months ago, and immediately when I saw it, I had to go and get the speckled yarn to make these exact rabbits. And I feel like they turned out so cute. They sit up very nicely. I know this is a terrible angle for you guys, but I'll get a fun picture so you can see. But they sit up very nicely and they're really squishy. At least this one especially is. I don't know if it's just the way I made it and how more open it is. This one's a little more on the firmer side, but I feel like the yarn, the blue yarn, was a little more tough than the pink one. But I still feel like this one, I like the size better. So in her pattern, I believe she has you use an H hook, which is what I did for this one. But I noticed it was extremely gappy as I was using it. And I don't know if that was just because I have much looser tension or what. So that's why with this one, I went ahead and used a G hook. So it made it a little smaller, but I felt like the stitches were a lot more neater. She also, in her pattern, she does the where you chain one at the beginning of every round. I'm not a huge fan of doing that personally. I'm just not good at making it look nice. I feel like you always see the line straight up and it doesn't look good. So I just do the spiral where I just keep continuing on each round without chaining one at the beginning. That does not really affect your overall project, I don't feel like, drastically. So if you're like me and don't like to do the chain one at the beginning of every round, it's not going to hurt your overall ending. I feel like it makes it about the same. And if you're pretty new with crochet and you're big on stitch counts, there was some stitch counts that she didn't have for some of her rows. So I'll have those linked down below, just the row and then what the stitch count should be, because I know sometimes you want to make sure you're doing it right. And so I'll have that linked out, I'll have that down there in the description for this Speckled Rabbit. But I think these turned out extremely cute. I think these are a great way if you want to gift something for spring or for Easter, have something in their Easter basket or decor. I feel like these are just too cute to pass up. I like just how floppy everything is and just super overall adorable. Rabbits are my thing. I really love rabbit stuff. So this was super sweet to make. Next up I have are these reusable Easter eggs. So you just fill your little candies or goodies into the egg like so. It folds on over and you can fill them up and set them around if you still want to do, I mean, they're kind of big for a scavenger hunt, but if you've got really small kids, this could be actually a very convenient way for them It's also nice if you don't like storing the bulk of the plastic eggs, because these again will compress down and you can have quite a few of these, and I don't feel like they take up too much space compared to a bunch of eggs, plastic eggs. But I do feel like this was a little complicated, maybe for newbies. I mean, you do one panel like this, and then you do part of one, and then another part of one, and it's attached inside out. So it can be a little complicated if you're kind of new. But this pattern credit goes to A Crafty Concept. So if you're wanting a more challenging, not that it's super difficult, but for a newbie, this would kind of be challenging because you do have to try and attach these two pieces as you're crocheting along. So that could be a bit intimidating if you're still new. But I did find a little more simpler, in my opinion, of Easter eggs, reusable Easter eggs, where you just do the two and then you attach all the way around. But you do have to do the reverse single crochet. But there are plenty of tutorials here on YouTube, and it's really pretty basic. You're just working, instead of, if you're right-handed, working this way. If you were to crochet along, you're just going to be working this way instead. So definitely check out some YouTube videos on how to do it, because once you see it, it really isn't as bad, and once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad either. But these are a little more basic, where it doesn't have quite as many folds and such, and you can still put your candy, and it closes up a little bit there. You could, if you wanted to, maybe doing Velcro to close, or have a button if you want. These are just kind of basic. But the pattern credit for these go to Woodland Stitch Crafts. So I found like these worked a lot better and faster personally, because you do have to make 3 separate pieces where this is only 2. Wanted to pick one out for you more beginners, because this is something I think you can do. So you know how to increase and decrease. This one's increase and decrease as well. I just think it is more involved. That could be a little stressful for a newbie, whereas these are a little more basic. But again, that nice, they're flat, they're not super bulky, and they're a great way if you're wanting to gift something to somebody. It's nice, kind of like a little pouch, so you can really stick anything that'll fit in these. And you can make them all sorts of colors. I believe she even has a pattern on how to do one like striped. So if you're liking maybe have a striped design, she has that as well. So you can do striped Easter eggs. Next I have is this hatching carrot. So the carrot itself, this rabbit is not part of the pattern, but the carrot itself is done by Oak and Marlowe. She does have a pattern that you can put a rabbit in here, but that is a completely separate pattern, and it is a paid pattern. So I will not, I'll link it down below, but I did not do it because I didn't want to pay for that rabbit one, because I ended up finding one that I liked better and I thought was a little cuter. So not anything against Oak and Marlowe. I just wasn't a fan of what her rabbit looked like, and I didn't feel like spending the money for how much it costed. But if you guys want to buy her rabbit pattern and support her, that's completely fine. I just had a preference. So I went ahead and did this rabbit pattern, and the pattern for this rabbit is Stitch by Faye. And I found out after I had already made all of this that Stitch by Faye actually has her own hatching carrot. So this isn't it, but she has one that'll probably fit, because this one almost doesn't fit this rabbit very well. But I'm also using very different yarn. This was Chanel yarn, this is blanket yarn, so maybe my yarns are just not mixing up very well, and it's also completely different patterns. But be sure to check out those, and maybe you can play around with what you want to do. But I thought this was just kind of cute. Like I said, it doesn't quite fit. I think it's supposed to in her actual pattern when she does it with her rabbit, but I think it's kind of cute where it just makes it look like he's just hanging out and popping out of the carrot. It can be a nice little addition, nice little thing for kids to play with, something you pop in an Easter basket. Overall, the rabbit just wins my heart over because he's so cute. So you guys can play around with whose patterns you use for what, but mine was kind of a whole thing that I did on accident, and I thought when I got to doing this free pattern, it showed a picture of the rabbit, so I thought the rabbit was already included, and it wasn't. So don't be like me and get fooled. It's not included. She does have a separate pattern on her website, but that one does cost money, but the carrot is free. So all the patterns going forward you will have to purchase, but I still think these are cute nonetheless. So we have, by this next creator, she had designed multiple rabbit poses. The first one I saw was this one, and then I kind of fell in love with all of them, and so I had to kind of purchase all of them. At least I think I did. I purchased at least 3 different ones. So you've got this little guy here, and then this little guy that's on his hind legs, and then this one that's just kind of hanging out. And I love these because they look so realistic to me. They're very detailed, so they're definitely not beginner friendly. If you are still new to crochet, you're still figuring out your stitch counts, I think the hardest part is really getting this part centered and everything. It gets kind of complicated. But if you have been crocheting for a while, this would be a really good pattern to follow and make if you like to do the realistic rabbits and such. This pattern credit goes to Natalia Supernova, and she has an Etsy shop where you can purchase, I believe they're all separate patterns, so you will have to be buying a couple of them, but her instructions are super clear. She shows pictures for everything. I was able to make it, so anybody I think can make it, because I can be challenged with these more complicated patterns, but I think it is super cute and I have fallen in love with making these. I believe she uses a much thicker yarn, like the Parfait chunky kind of yarn. But as you can see, you can clearly do it with acrylic yarn just as well. I have played around with Bernat blanket. I did do that brown one with this Bernat blanket. So it's a little different. It does change the overall look of the rabbit, but it was worth a try. I think his tail was a little awkward, but other than that, I think he still turned out pretty cute. So you could play around with different yarns as well and doing different things. I don't think I wanted to bother doing the Bernat yarn with this one because I knew it would be huge and I didn't want to be storing something that big or try to sell something that big or even ship something that big. This one I felt like was a little more realistic to try and make with Bernat blanket. And last up I have are these rainbow bags. You can get the pattern on Etsy by Hooked Me. I have made several of these. I even lined mine on the inside with fabric. And I can show and do a tutorial on that if anybody is interested on how I line the inside of these bags. This one was following her full pattern. I know she must have used a very different yarn than what I did because this was me following her pattern, and I believe her bag looks like this when she's done. So I'm not exactly sure what's different. I don't think she specifies what yarn she uses. But with this one, because this is one of the first bags I made, I did make some pockets in here as well. And like I said, I do hand line them. This one I did a little bit more kind of springy / Valentine's-y, but I still think it falls under spring. But I think these are overall super cute. The pastel colors has been my most favorite when it comes to Easter and spring, because it just goes with anything during this time of year. What colors would you guys do for your rainbow bags? I'd love to hear about it. Drop it down in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you were all inspired on taking one of these projects and going crazy and making rabbits, or by making rainbow bags, or making carrots, or just gifting things this time of year for Easter. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. What are you guys thinking about making? What are your projects for Easter? I'd love to hear all about it. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it so that you'll be notified every time I post new videos like this. And as always, happy crafting and keep creating beautiful things. Until next time, everyone. Bye!